If you ask me out and you're a millionaire, I'll say yes.
If they're not a millionaire?
Then we can be friends. If he doesn't own a house that's over $7 million, I won't date him. I just have, goals and expectations and boundaries, and this is what I strive for.
What are the other criteria that you're looking for in a guy?
I want someone that's successful,
Sure,
motivated, influential,
okay,
good values.
Minimum height?
Actually, I'm okay with the guy being short as long as he's rich.
This is him catching up.
Did you want Santa Claus to come down your chimney too?
And it never bothered me once that my financial security was dependent on that man being in love with me. I never realized that him liking me or not liking me or finding me sexy or attractive or interesting determined whether or not my children could eat, whether or not I could buy myself a fucking
That was a former trad wife who was talking about how her whole financial livelihood and her life in general was dependent on her husband, and how that all fell apart when he decided to divorce her because she had not gone to college. She didn't have anything in her name. She didn't have her own bank account. She didn't have her own checking account. She didn't have any business stuff on her resume that she could utilize to get a job when he decided to leave. And I'm seeing more and more and more trad wives coming out and talking about this very thing, that they did it. They were in it for the long haul. They birthed 4, 5, 6 kids for that man to decide one day he was going to up and leave. Because like she said, he didn't love her anymore. He didn't find her attractive anymore. There wasn't anything there anymore. So he held all the financial power and decided to leave, and he took that with him, and he took that away. Nobody plans on getting divorced when they get married, but you have to cover your own ass. You have to look out for you because nobody else will. So if you're not married yet and you have an idea that you want to stay at home and raise children, wonderful. Get a prenup. Put it in there that you are to be paid X amount of money a month or a year, like a salaried employee. You get benefits, you get 401k, you get retirement, so that you at least have something to fall back on if you don't have any time while you're raising children to do a side hustle, to work, to bring in your own income, or even make sure you have your own bank account where you're taking out money to put aside for you in the off case that something like this were to happen. It is never a safe situation for women to be solely financially dependent on another human being in their life, but especially a man who can change his mind at the drop of a hat and take everything out from under you and take everything away.
Fellas, let me ask you something real quick. What happens when a woman builds her entire life on a man, and then that man decides he's done? I'm talking no education, no job skills, no savings, no independence, nothing. One woman admitted that her whole world came crashing down when her husband divorced her, simply because she had nothing of her own. And now, I'm seeing more and more women pushing this trad wife fantasy, where they proudly depend on men for everything. But here's the truth. When that safety net is gone, the only person to blame is her. Let's talk about something real today. A woman openly admitted that she never worried about being fully dependent on her husband. Her entire financial stability, her home, her lifestyle, everything was tied to him. She didn't bother to get an education, never open her own bank account, and never developed skills to stand on her own. And when he chose to end the marriage, her world collapsed overnight. Now here's the harsh reality. This is not the man's fault. Too many women think relying 100% on a man is some romantic dream, until reality smacks them in the face. A husband is not a retirement plan. Marriage is not an insurance policy. If you tie your identity, your career, and your survival to one man, then you are the one who left yourself unprotected. That's a decision, not an accident. We live in a world where opportunities exist everywhere. Education is accessible. Jobs can be found. Skills can be learned. Side hustles are possible. Yet, some women willingly refuse to build anything of their own because they believe a man will carry the load forever. Then when the relationship ends, suddenly men get blamed for leaving them with nothing. No, they left themselves with nothing by choice. Trad wives are popping up all over, promoting this old-fashioned fantasy of being fully dependent. But let's call it what it is: risky, reckless, and short-sighted. Life is unpredictable. Divorce happens. Illness happens. Even death happens. So when a woman chooses to ignore preparation, she's gambling with her own future. And that gamble has consequences. Men are tired of being painted as villains for women's lack of planning. A responsible partner will always provide, but that does not excuse laziness, lack of independence, or blind trust that he'll take care of everything. A real man wants a woman who can stand beside him, not someone who collapses the moment he steps away. Ladies, if you choose to put your entire life in another person's hands, don't cry foul when that choice backfires. Dependence is not love. Sacrificing your security is not loyalty. And failure to prepare is not a man's burden. At the end of the day, accountability belongs to you.
Just because she's crying doesn't mean she's a victim. Let's do this again. Men get called toxic for setting boundaries. Meanwhile, women get praised for controlling behavior. Men, have you ever been in a situation where a woman flips the script? The crocodile tears start coming, flips the whole narrative. You might not have even done anything wrong, but she will flip it all back to you. Women love to weaponize those emotions. Then we wonder why men don't typically communicate well. I'm not saying all. And this one really gets women fired up. Come here for this one. Women who withhold sex, communication, affection from their person, that is emotional manipulation. That's not empowerment. And remember, abuse is not gender specific. Abuse is about power and control. And I don't know why society tends to forget that women are just as capable as doing emotional abuse, just as men are. But the only difference is one gets called out, the other one gets excused. But fellas, don't forget, Jesus is king, and don't be out there arguing with Jezebels.
A man caught his wife cheating and told her he was filing for divorce. Instead of owning up, she unleashed violence. She tore apart the house, struck him several times, and even shoved him down a flight of stairs. When he finally called the police for help, she cried in front of the officers. They ignored his injuries, believed her story, and arrested him on the spot. After that, things only got worse. She locked him out of his own home with protection order, changed the passwords on the security cameras, so he couldn't prove what happened, and stripped him of everything he owned. She stole over $60,000 worth of property, while he spent 14 months fighting false charges. In the end, the case was dropped, but she faced no consequences for her lies or destruction. Women can be abusers too, but society refuses to admit it. They know how to weaponize emotions, how to manipulate the system, and how to flip the narrative. When a man reacts, he's branded dangerous. When a woman lashes out, she's painted as emotional or misunderstood. Excuses shield her, while punishment crushes him. That double standard is everywhere. This behavior doesn't only come from wives or girlfriends. Many mothers also use emotional control over their sons. They guilt their boys, dump their issues on them, and treat them like substitutes for partners. People refuse to suspect mothers of wrongdoing, but the reality is some of them destroy their sons mentally long before those boys ever step into adulthood. That conditioning carries over into relationships. Men raised under emotional manipulation are trained to accept mistreatment, to silence themselves, and to put women's feelings above their own pain. By the time they grow up, they're vulnerable to the same abuse, because it feels normal. That cycle benefits women, while men continue suffering in silence. On top of that, the legal system always seems to take her side. She can steal, cheat, hit, and lie, and still walk into a courtroom with sympathy guaranteed. Men are punished first and forced to prove innocence later. Meanwhile, women walk away untouched, even after ruining lives. That imbalance is why these stories keep repeating. Abuse does not belong to one gender. Manipulation is not exclusive to men. Women who choose to destroy, lie, and control should face accountability. Until society admits this truth, men will continue losing everything while women weaponize victimhood without fear of consequences.
Only way a lot of women feel good about themselves is if they tear down men. So many women on the internet right now that talk so much shit about men while they simultaneously are sleeping with them, married to them, have sons, have brothers, still have fathers in their lives. And then they get on the internet and preach how all men don't like women, but what men don't like is the bad attitude, the entitlement, the fact that they have all of these expectations that they can't even meet themselves. Like, a lot of y'all hate men so much, but you use men as the standard for feeling better about yourself when you go through a breakup or when something shitty happens to you. It's always the men to blame. So make that make sense. And the funny thing about it is, if it's not men that they hate, then they end up competing with other women, and it's always this shit show of who is better as a woman. I'm convinced that the only women that claim that they hate all men, or that all men are trash, or they don't like men at all, are the ones that either can't get a man or are desperately in need of a man and can't keep one or get one. Or if they can get one, it's not a good one, so they blame everything around them instead of taking accountability. I think subconsciously, a lot of women actually want a man, but they're never going to say that, because saying that would mean that they would have to change parts of them that they don't even want to acknowledge in the first place. Okay, bye.
Some women build themselves up by breaking men down. Instead of growing on their own, they choose to attack a man's character, mock his efforts, and crush his spirit just to feel superior. They don't create strength. They steal it by tearing from the man who's actually trying to do something with his life. You'll notice this pattern everywhere. A man succeeds, and she suddenly finds a flaw to magnify. A man struggles, and she highlights it to embarrass him. It's not about love or support. It's about control. The goal is to weaken him until he doubts himself, while she feels stronger standing on top of his broken confidence. This behavior has nothing to do with partnership. A true partner lifts you up, but these women drag men down because they thrive on dominance. They want men to stay beneath them emotionally and mentally, so they can always claim the upper hand. It's not nurturing. It's sabotage disguised as love. And society makes it worse. People laugh when women ridicule men. They cheer when women insult them. But if a man ever dares to respond, suddenly he's called toxic, insecure, or fragile. The world has created a safe space for women to cut men down, while punishing men for defending themselves. The damage is real. Men lose motivation, confidence, and even purpose because the very person who should support them is working against them. Instead of building a family or future together, she destroys trust, creates resentment, and feeds on negativity. The relationship becomes a battlefield instead of a partnership. At the end of the day, no man should tolerate being reduced just to make a woman feel taller. Respect isn't one-sided. Strength isn't gained by crushing someone else. Women who choose to weaken men to boost themselves are the real problem, and until accountability is placed on them, men will continue suffering under emotional sabotage disguised as love.
I'm 46 years old, and while I'm getting ready for surgery and everything, it dawned on me that I'm 46 years old and I don't have a husband to take care of me. Being single and 46 sucks. It just sucks. And I make jokes about buffoons that I have been encountering in dating, but in reality, this is my reality.
All these women out here who adapt this feminist ideology and think that men ain't shit and that they're strong and independent and that they can pay their own bills and carry their own weight and have their own careers, they will all face this exact same reality right over here, man. Oh man, don't nobody want to be alone when you got health issues. Believe me when I tell you, man, your friends, they ain't really gonna be around there. You know, but a man is gonna be there for you 24/7, looking out for you and taking care of you, man.
She spent her younger years ignoring good men, chasing attention, and believing time would never catch up. Now she's 40, and the tears won't stop because reality finally caught her. The same men she once rejected are married, building families, and moving forward, while she sits alone, wondering where it all went wrong. Women are told from a young age that they will always have options, that men will line up no matter their age, and that they can waste their prime years without consequence. But the truth is, the dating market doesn't work that way. Men value youth, cooperation, and loyalty. When those qualities fade, interest fades with them, and that's why she's crying now. It's not that men disappeared. It's that the men she wants no longer want her. When she was younger, she had endless choices but refused to settle, thinking better would always come. She placed career, nightlife, and independence above building a stable home. Now the same freedom she bragged about has become a prison, and the silence of an empty house is a reality. Blame doesn't belong to men here. Men didn't force her to waste her best years. Men didn't tell her to reject commitment for temporary excitement. Those decisions were hers, and now the outcome is hers too. Every choice has a price, and she is paying it with loneliness. The saddest part is how often this story repeats. So many women believe they can put love and family on hold forever, but when the clock runs out, regret takes over. They cry about being alone, but they built the very path that led them there. Accountability doesn't disappear just because emotions are involved. Fellas, the lesson here is simple. Don't let guilt pull you into saving women from the consequences of their own decisions. They had chances, they made choices, and now they live with results. Reality always comes, and when it does, no amount of tears will erase years of arrogance and wasted opportunities.
The men in these age gap, holy fucking airball trend videos, jail. Immediate jail. I just saw 3 back to back, okay? The first one I saw, he was born in 1972. She was born in 2000. Okay? The second one I saw, he was born in 1976. She was born in 2004. And the one I just saw, he was born in 1966 and she was born in 1990. Jail. Jail.
Are these women okay? Like, are they mentally all there? Like, she realizes those are all consenting adults, right? She pointed out a 25-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 35-year-old. She didn't point out a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 17-year-old. But you know why women like this always have this opinion? Because the guys she's pointing out are the guys she was the one dating. Maybe not those specific guys, but those types of guys. That age bracket, the people who have money, the people who are well off, have status, and they can date whoever they want. And more than likely, they're decent-looking dudes. Because like we've talked about before, us guys generally get better looking as we age. Up to a certain point, of course. You ladies, on the other hand, not all of you, most of you do not age that well. Which is why so many of you younger women date older, A, because you get a better man who is financially successful, who has status, but B, you get an opportunity to lock him down and make him fall in love to where when you do get older, it won't matter to him. He's not going to care about your looks because y'all been together for so long and he just loves you. The problem is you get so many of these young women going after these guys just for the lifestyle. They're not actually trying to love somebody. So then they're all broken up when the guy cheats on her because she's treating him like shit because she's only using him for a paycheck. So really, you shouldn't be mad about these relationships. And let's be honest, it's always the older women who are throwing a fit about this stuff. Like, that lady's probably close to my age. I wouldn't date her. Why would I? I don't have to. I can date somebody in their upper 20s or lower 30s if I want. Like, me personally, I'm not going for lower 20s. For me, that's just not my thing. I don't have the money or the status to be able to do it anyway. But I have plenty of money to bring somebody in who wants somebody that's decent looking, who actually is ambitious and goes to the gym and gets to go on vacations and live a lifestyle. Why would I choose to do that with a 40-year-old woman versus a 30-year-old woman who looks better? I know this all sounds harsh, but it's the facts. It's the reality of today's world. Like, people like her are just simply upset because they can no longer get the man. Like, she had to use an example of her dating some younger guy at some point. Yeah, but you're only dating that younger guy because he only wanted one thing out of you. He don't want a relationship from you. He wanted to get his knickers rocked, and that was about it. I'm sorry if this hurts some of y'all's feelings. It's just the truth.
It's always the older women shouting about how men their age prefer younger women. Some even go as far as saying those men should be punished for their choices. That kind of talk doesn't come from logic. It comes from bitterness. When they see men happily dating women who are youthful, cooperative, and less demanding, it eats them up inside. The truth is simple. Men don't owe older women anything. A man has a right to choose who he wants. And if younger women bring peace, energy, and respect, that's where men will go. Instead of accepting this reality, older women lash out and label it unfair. But deep down, it's jealousy speaking, not morality. For years, many of these women ignored good men, nagged partners, and demanded everything while giving little in return. Now that men no longer want to deal with that energy, they feel abandoned. They mistake the consequences of their own behavior for some injustice, when really, men are just moving toward better options. Younger women aren't magically taking older men away. Those men are choosing them because they provide what older women often refuse to give: appreciation, cooperation, and peace. That difference makes all the noise about unfairness look more like resentment than concern. A woman who truly valued men in her youth wouldn't be angry at them in her 40s. The anger comes from knowing that the men they once overlooked have options now. Instead of being humble, they try to shame those men or demand society punish them for their choices. That's not accountability, that's desperation. The blame belongs solely to the women who wasted their best years thinking men would always be waiting. A man choosing younger women isn't the problem. The real issue is older women refusing to face the reality of their own decisions. They can cry foul, shout about fairness, or throw insults, but it won't change anything. Men will always choose what brings them happiness, and no amount of jealousy or resentment will stop that.
Listen, the term old lady is controversial, both with men and with women. I can try and explain it. I have tried to explain it, but I will try and explain it again. And the best way I know how to do that is with my own personal experience. I light up anytime my man calls me his old lady. He'll be on the phone with his guys at work or his buddies or his boss, and he'll be like, yeah, I was telling my old lady about that the other day. Or, I don't know, man, I'm going to have to ask the old lady. And why do I light up? Because he's not calling me old lady. He's calling me his old lady. He is claiming me, and not just claiming me, he is making sure that whoever he's talking to knows that I am his ride or die. And that is not a term that should be taken lightly. And I know that it's controversial, and sometimes it gets thrown around when it shouldn't be. That title should be earned, because being the most important woman in a good man's life is a privilege and is not given away and should not be given away carelessly. My man calling me his old lady means that not only does he love me, he also respects me and trusts me. And again, I know that that's not always the case, but it goes back to good men versus bad men, just like good women versus bad women. Being called his old lady not only means that he'll die for me, but it means that he'll live for me. And he'd do anything in the world for me. And it also means that he knows for a fact that I would do the same. And there's no way in hell that I'm going to break that trust or let him down. That's being an old lady.
When a man calls his wife his old lady, that's not an insult, that's loyalty. It means he would defend her to the point of shedding blood. He would fight battles most men would run from, and he'd do it without hesitation. If someone disrespected her, he'd smile in his mugshot knowing he stood up for her. That's protection, not belittlement. But some women don't understand this. They hear the phrase and instantly scream disrespect. They twist a badge of honor into an attack because they don't see the love behind it. They'd rather focus on how the word sounds and what it actually represents: devotion, sacrifice, and commitment from a man who is willing to risk everything. The truth is, not every woman qualifies to be called that. To a real man, old lady means ride or die. She's the one who has his back when things get rough. She's the one who doesn't nag, doesn't tear him down, and doesn't run when life gets messy. That title is earned by loyalty, not handed out to anyone. Women who complain about the phrase are often the ones who don't embody that loyalty. They aren't standing beside their men. They're standing against them. They criticize, they argue, they make life harder. Then they get jealous when another woman wears that title proudly, because deep down they know they never deserved it. A man who calls his wife his old lady is saying, "This is my woman, and I will protect her with everything I've got." That's not disrespect. That's the highest form of honor. But some women don't want to see it that way, because they're too busy resenting the fact that men value loyalty and peace over drama and complaints. The only women who cry about that name are the ones who don't measure up. They want the recognition without giving the loyalty. They want the title without the sacrifice. But men aren't fooled. The women who stand tall beside their men already know what it means, and they don't need to nag or complain, because the proof is in the love they receive. Men show love and loyalty in ways that women often refuse to recognize. What some call disrespect is actually sacrifice. What some label offensive is really devotion. The problem is, not all women qualify for that level of loyalty, and instead of admitting it, they get jealous and complain. Fellas, don't let resentment twist the truth, because when a man chooses to stand by someone, that's the highest honor, and only the deserving will ever experience it. Thanks for sticking around this channel. Peace.